49ers, Seahawks, they meet again. Winner advances to the NFC Championship game. Will the third time be the charm for the 49ers? We'll discuss the key matchups in what should be another instant classic in this rivalry on today's 49K Pod.
You're listening to the 49 Carats Podcast, a 49ers Goldmine production with Stephanie Sanchez.
What's going on, everyone? Welcome to another edition of the 49 Carats Podcast. I'm your host, Steph. It is Friday, January 16th. Full disclosure, I am in a cabin, Wi-Fi going crazy. We'll see how it works out, but we're going to try our best because I could not miss this preview show. It's just way too important. Playing Seattle in the divisional round. It's up and it's stuck. Here with my Friday co-host to preview this one, KP. How you doing?
I'm good. This is what you want, right? This is exactly why we do this. So whether it's players, whether it's fans, just as football watchers, you want to see a rivalry in the playoffs, and especially in this setting right here.
It's so interesting because, we know that the first matchup happened in week 1 and the second one was week 18. It's a completely different team, like on both sides, right? Like two different teams at that point. And then to face this team a third time 2 weeks after the last meeting is kind of crazy too. It's like we went that long without facing each other, and now it's like very condensed, the time that we had. But I do still feel like from the 49ers standpoint, things are shaping up to be just a bit different. And no Kittle, but it looks like you're getting Trent Williams back, and it looks like Ricky Pearsall is coming back as well. So let's talk about these injuries for the 49ers side. A couple players that are going to be out. Jair Brown with his hamstring injury, and everyone was excited to see Fred Warner because he was back on the field earlier this week, but he is not going to be making it for this game. He is out. It looks like D. Winters is trending towards returning for this game after missing the wild card round game against the Eagles. He's questionable. Luke Gifford is questionable. Ricky Pearsall is questionable. He was on the field again. Jacob Cowing is questionable. So given all this, having Trent Williams for this one, who's not even on the game status report, he's good to go. He played last week, but he did not play in week 18. And of course, we know Ricky Pearsall has missed the last few weeks. So I feel like having those two guys back alone, KP, could help this offense quite a bit.
Yeah, they weren't able to do anything in week 18. They couldn't do the things that they wanted to do, the things that they rely on offense, because the left tackle wasn't there, the all-pro Hall of Fame left tackle, because the first-round wide receiver wasn't there. So I feel like we're going to see a much different version of the 49ers offense than we saw in week 18. And we kind of saw it last week, just the things that they were able to do, throw the ball down the field, which they really couldn't in Seattle or in the last matchup against Seattle. So, yeah, I think we're going to see a much higher scoring game this time around.
Yeah, I would imagine as well, at least from 49ers standpoint. I wouldn't even put past the 49ers defense to perform better. We'll talk about that here in a bit. But Desi, who wasn't able to join us for today's show, I asked her about Fred Warner and the video clips from practice, what she thought, because I saw a lot of people saying he's favoring one of his legs. He should not play. Which for one, Kyle Shanahan said he was a long shot to play this game to begin with. So People were just getting overly excited by the fact that he returned to practice, even though that is something he was going to have to do at some point to get back on the field. Doesn't mean he was going to play Saturday. Here's what Desi said. She said he looks good, but with the time frame, always concerned for re-injury versus injury of something else, secondary to compensating. So, yeah, he might still have some ways to go, although it does sound from the team standpoint that he has a better chance of playing in the NFC Championship game should the 49ers advance. So, fingers crossed, we'll wait another week.
They need to see how his body responds afterward. They need to see how he deals with 1 day of rest, 2 days of rest. Like, he needs to be able to get through a week of practice. So in those drills, you could tell, oh, he looks fine. It looks like he could play. But the recovery, like the rest, the actual football part, outside of when you're not playing, goes into the decision to whether he can play or not. So I think after a week of that, they could determine whether he could play. But there's no doubt he looks legit like he could for sure help them. It just sucks that he's not going to be able to this week.
Yeah, won't be able to go this week, but as mentioned, D. Winters should be back. And then we know Eric Kendricks has kind of fit in quite nicely with the 49ers defense. And I don't know. I really like that addition. It does make me feel a lot better about the linebacking situation, even with some of the injuries that they've sustained there in the last few weeks. So looking forward to seeing what it looks like going into this divisional round game. Just another extra week for him to get comfortable with this defense. So let's pivot on over to the Seahawks and their injuries. Much shorter list for them. So as far as the players who are going to be out, Elijah Arroyo, the rookie tight end, Josh Jones with the knee injury, and Chaz Surratt with the ankle injury. Sam Darnold popped up on the injury report, which is, I don't want to say funny. It was just kind of, in a way, bizarre because they had a bye week. It's like,
right.
My guy. So he was questionable, although it seems like that's probably not of concern for the Seahawks, and he's going to play in this game. I mean,
it almost felt like a troll, just because what the Niners were doing with Fred Warner. Like, he might play. He might play. They're going back and forth with that. And then with Darnold, all of a sudden, oh, you want to play like Warner's going to do something? Here's Darnold. He's on the injury list. He got hurt walking up some stairs. Like, when else would he have gotten hurt? So just doesn't make sense to me.
Yeah, and there was also that game where a couple years ago, right, where Brock Purdy had the oblique injury, right, and ended up playing that game. So yeah, maybe a little bit of trolling with that. Yeah, yeah. So maybe some trolling there too. But it's all fun and games. You know, we do expect Sam Darnold to play in this game. Let's take a look at the weather in Seattle. Thought it'd be good to just take a peek at it. Am I back?
You are back. You're good now. Faded a little.
Am I back? Sorry for the connections. Okay. Know when I'm back.
You're good.
Am I good?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So I thought I'd take a peek at it just because, you know, last week against the Eagles, you had the win factor. Seattle sometimes could be a little weather adverse with rain and whatnot, but it looks like it's going to be a pretty good weather situation for the 49ers in Seattle going into this game. No rain, no wind really expected. It'll be a little chilly at night, but I mean, I think that's okay. Definitely not what the Rams are going to be experiencing out there in Chicago. So we got.
This is about best case scenario, right? No rain.
I think so.
No snow, no wind, outdoors in middle of January in the PNW.
I'll take it. I'll definitely take it. So yeah, it shouldn't impact either team, and that's what you want to hear. So let's take a quick look at the Seahawks offense. I mean, the last time that these two teams played 2 weeks ago, not much of a difference, except I think the left tackle, Charles Cross, I believe, was out for that game, if I'm not mistaken. So he's going to be playing in this one. But aside from that, it's going to be their same starters, Sam Darnold, Walker and Charbonnet, the 1A, 1B, with the running backs, Jackson Smith and Jigba, Rashid Shaheed, AJ Barner. So I think that kind of brings me to some of the cautious matchups. And you know what? After the Week 18 game, I was like, damn, like I didn't put the Seattle running backs as cautious because I don't know. I just felt confident. I guess the 49ers were going to be able to, stop them. But that did not happen in Week 18. Seattle had 171 rushing yards through these two guys. Ken Walker had 16 carries, 97 rushing yards, 6.1 yards per carry average. He himself forced 10 missed tackles. That was a career high. And Zach Charbonnet had 17 carries, 74 rushing yards, 4.4 average. He had the long touchdown in that one as well, for 7 missed tackles of his own. So this was really, to me, like the crux of that game. And so I'm putting it as a cautious, but I also recognize that there's opportunity here for the 49ers to flip the script on this matchup alone. Like if the 49ers can stop Seahawks run game, it looks entirely different than it did last time, because it really felt like that was the main way they were moving the football. I mean, even if you look back at the the statistics of that game, they were pretty evenly split in terms of how many run plays versus pass plays they were doing. But I feel like most of that yardage really came on the ground. So that allowed them to stay on the field longer. Sam Darnold didn't even have to do too much. Sam Darnold passed for 198 yards, but he didn't throw any touchdowns of his own. So really it was this ground game that got it going. Given that the 49ers did have success stopping the run last week against Eagles and Barkley, how much of that could you really take into this matchup and say, okay, things might be different this time around?
Yeah, I mean, law of averages should favor the 49ers, just the variance. If Walker only forces 5 missed tackles, if Charbonnet only forces 4 missed tackles, and now instead of 97, it's 65. Instead of 74, it's 47. So you would think the law of averages and the variance favors the 49ers. They had in that last game, they had so many plays where they just flat out whiffed on tackles. Some of their veteran DTs like Jordan Elliott had a pretty rough one. So I think leaning on the rookies will also favor them, but at the same time, just tackling half the time. They missed 23 tackles overall, which is insane for a pro team. So if that number even comes down to 10 or 13, we're talking about a much different game. And when Seattle's not in 3rd and 3, 3rd and 4, they have to pass the ball, get into obvious passing downs, and that's where you put it on the shoulders of Sam Darnold. That's what you have to do. And everybody's talking about making this a Sam Darnold game. Well, you got to tackle Walker and you got to tackle Charbonnet for that to happen.
Yeah, it really does feel like a domino effect. So you play into what Seattle wants to do if you can't stop the run. And I know the 49ers know that. I know Robert Saleh knows that. I feel like there's going to be an extra emphasis on that this week.
They made a really good adjustment in the second half, and part of that is just by playing Alfred Collins and CJ West, I swear. So their numbers with them on and off the field in week 15 was almost worth a half a point of EPA per play. It is insane, like how much better they were with the rookies on the field as opposed to basically just Jordan Elliott. Yeah, it's like they should legitimately think about starting both rookies, and they end up playing more regardless. They don't necessarily have to start, but why even risk it, right? Based on how both sets of tackles have played the past couple weeks, just roll with the rookies. I think they have some confidence, and they just match up better, especially against Bradford. Bradford, the right guard, is somebody that they have to take advantage of. Grazabell, he's the man. He's really good, but I think getting over on the right guard should go a long way for the 49ers.
I think this is exactly why they drafted those guys. You brought them, especially, Alfred Collins coming from a big school like Texas. They play in big games like these. I don't think they're afraid of the moment. They're kind of built by it. So players like Jordan Elliott were meant to keep the bed warm, basically, until Collins was ready to lay in. And it seems like now he's ready. So I think it's time to rip the Band-Aid off, go down swinging with your best players, and your best players in this instance just so happen to be a pair of rookies. So again, emphasis is going to be on trying to avoid missed tackles in this game for the 49ers. And it just happens to be one of the things that these two running backs do quite well is forcing missed tackles, right? So it's going to be best versus hopefully the 49ers' best effort on the ground. Walker and Charbonnet have combined to force 132 missed tackles across their combined touches this season. That's third most among running back duos. And Zach Charbonnet gained a little over 91% of his total rushing yards after contact this season. So, yeah, it's going to have to be that swarm mentality. You just can't have those same issues from Week 18 surfacing again. So this is a big one for the 49ers to focus on. And I know for that Week 18 matchup, one of the cautious matchups I had was Jackson Smith and Jigba. And I understand that he only had 84 yards, which, is kind of like the Puka thing we talked about, I think, in preparation for that Week 18 game, where it was like, yeah, keeping Puka to like 80 yards or whatever it was definitely below 100. We felt like was a huge win. Kind of feels the same way with Jackson Smith and Jigba, 84 yards in that Week 18 game, but still a hell of a contributor, right? So I don't think you can necessarily think it's going to be easy to stop him. I mean, he's still very much capable of getting over on the Niners, I think. I think the one matchup to pay most attention to is Smith and Jigba against Renardo Green, because I think he had most success against him, in Week 18. What are your thoughts on what the 49ers did in Week 18, and should that help them in this game, or do you see Seattle making adjustments to use Smith and Jigba even more and having him have success like he did in Week 1?
Yeah, it's not like they know who Darnold's throwing the ball to. And even though he had 84 yards, it was weird. It seemed like at one point he could have had more, and then another point, like the defense should be able to stop that. I'm kind of fascinated to see, does Diamador Lenoir get his wish, because he's been asking to travel with him. And from Week 18 to the last week, the wild card, Saleh actually switched it up. He swapped corners, like they switched sides for the first time all season, honestly. And we saw Lenoir travel with A.J. Brown. It didn't work out the way Lenoir wanted to, but at the same time, didn't allow any big plays, and the drop certainly helped. But I do wonder if we see Saleh just give Lenoir his wish, but I would leave Green on him, and maybe this is the difference where like a speedy guy like Marcus Siegel comes into play, and now you can have extra eyes on JSN with somebody who can really run, and you double him and legitimately just force anybody else to beat you. It's wild that the Seattle's been able to get away with basically targeting JSN on every other play. And he really is that good. I understand why. Like, if anything, why doesn't every team do that? Just throw it to their best player every play. Good things will happen. But you would think Saleh has a better plan to take him away. But I'm sure that goes along with just, maybe we see more man coverage this time around. We didn't really see that that often. But it's all going to go back to, can you stop the run? That way Jackson Smith and Jigba doesn't have these one-on-one opportunities.
Yeah, for sure. And then I saw this infographic earlier. The NFL posted most games with 90 or more receiving yards in a single season, including the playoffs. Jackson Smith and Jigba has 13 games this season with 90 or more receiving yards, which again makes that Week 18 game look like a win from the 49ers standpoint. It was a loss for the 49ers, but stopping him felt like a win, or limiting him. So if they could do that, and if they could stop the run, I mean, you're going to feel pretty good about the 49ers' chances in this game, and, the Seahawks getting less points in this one, and that being more manageable for the 49ers. So those to me are like the biggest cautious matchups from the offensive side, Seahawks offensive side. Now, let's take a look at the Seahawks defense, because we know that's real key in this matchup, as well as we saw in that Week 18 game. So really, the only difference from Week 18 to this one is that their safety, Kobe Bryant, is back and will play in this game. So aside from that, all the same guys. Just given that, KP, like, what – at a high level, just like what adjustments do the 49ers need to make? And do you see the Seahawks making any adjustments of their own, or would they just go into this game thinking, Like, hey, like we were able to stop them pretty damn well in Week 18. Let's just keep going with that.
I mean, based on the players that they have, they don't really have many adjustments to do. They have like studs all over the place. I would imagine, and I really think Kyle Shanahan learned his lesson from Week 18 to wild card. And I know no Trent Williams, no Ricky Pearsall, so like that obviously plays a factor in like what you can do. But in Week 18, they didn't run the ball outside once, which is a Kyle Shanahan offense. That's what he's known for. That's what the Shanahans came up on, is just that outside zone run, and they had 0 in Week 18. And the first play of the game last week, they have one. They really didn't attack Seattle until late in the third quarter. And sure enough, they had a successful drive when they did it. So I would imagine, just like wild card week last week, the 49ers right away throw the ball down the field, get a 61-yarder with Demarcus Robinson attacking their best player. So you basically have to trust that your offense, which is a very elite, it's one of the best in the NFL, is going to be good in any situation against anybody. I think they were just – Shannon's kind of sat on his hands in Week 18, and they came out firing last week. I would imagine they come out firing again this week, and having Pearsall, having Trent Williams will give them more just confidence to do so. So I think that's what's going to be probably the biggest adjustment, is picking up where you left off last week and putting the game on the shoulders of your quarterback.
I agree, because I think we saw in that Week 18 matchup, you're not going to be able to run the football against this Seattle front. And they finished the regular season allowing just 3.7 yards per carry. That was best in the NFL. 91.6 rushing yards per game. That was third. And Christian McCaffrey, just 2.9 yards per carry. And they only attempted 8 carries in that game. So I think that tells you everything you kind of need to know. It was like, okay, we tested it early, confirmed it's not going to work. So let's just go away from it. And also you have to keep in mind, on top of that, 49ers aren't going to have George Kittle blocking for them in this game. So, yes, you do have Trent Williams back. That should provide a bit of a boost. But I just don't think the 49ers are even going to – well, let me ask you this. Do you think the 49ers will even try to run the ball? Or do they just go into it knowing it's not going to happen? Let's just pass it from the get-go.
Well, I think we're going to see just more targets to McCaffrey than last time. So that'll be like basically a long handoff or something where it's easy to get the ball into his hands. But, I mean, it's Shanahan. He's still going to run the ball. It's what he wants to do. Like, that's his baby. That's his bread and butter. So I would imagine so. And, again, like having Trent Williams has the effect on your running game, your play action, your drop back, so your entire offense, and being able to run the ball, just his direction will go a long way of what they can do as far as just building off other plays. So we probably will. Whether it's successful, probably not, because this is like one of the best – legitimately one of the best they're the second best run defenses in DVOA since 2020. So like they're legitimately a historically good run defense. And again, Week 18, you saw that they're not even wasting their time running the ball. So there might be throws that are extension of a handoff to get McCaffrey the ball, but we're not going to see a game plan where McCaffrey gets close to 15, 20 carries unless he breaks one, they have some success.
Mm-hmm. Indeed. And maybe they try Brian Robinson a couple more times, but I don't know. Like it seems like he's just kind of the tougher runner. I'm not calling McCaffrey not tough, but you know what I mean? Like he's able to drive his legs a little bit more and get a little extra yardage here and there, force some missed tackles. McCaffrey also good at that, but I don't know. Maybe it's the type of matchup you get Brian Robinson there on short yardage situations. Not sure, but I just don't think we see a lot of rushing attempts in this game anyway. So 49ers going to have to figure out how to do it a different way. Before we get into the 49ers favorable matchups, I have one thing I wanted to call out, and this is big for this game in particular because Seattle's coming off their bye week. They're going to be going into this game with 13 days of rest. 49ers played on Sunday, so they'll only have 5 full days of rest in between them. And there's always this talk of, okay, well, can a team be rusty if they had their bye week, right? There's always that risk. But I think it heavily favors Seattle to have the extra rest.
For sure.
And This is from NFL Pro. Since 1984, teams with 8 or more days of rest advantage in the playoffs against their opponents are 7-0 in such games. The teams with shorter rest has been held to 10 or fewer points in 6 of 7 games, while the team with longer rest has scored 20 or more points in all 7 games. That doesn't give me a lot of confidence just on this alone. But yeah, there's something to it, right? Just the fact that, a team that's been able to rest their body is going to be able to go into this game a little more fresh and ready to go.
Yeah, I mean, think about the 49ers. They were able to have one full speed practice this week because it's such a short week. And like maybe if they do have more rest, maybe Jair Brown plays, maybe Fred freaking Warner is able to play if they have more rest. So it's definitely interesting to see how it'll turn out. But at the same time, I don't think the 49ers are like too upset about this, just because like, you're going to have to play regardless. These are professional athletes. They've been through this. They've been on both sides of the coin where they've had short rest and they've had rest versus rest. So once you get onto the football field, you're no longer thinking, man, I wish we would have played next week, or sorry, man, I wish we'd have had 24 more hours, or I wish we would have been able to practice on Tuesday. It's a game, and they've been doing this all their lives. So I'm sure there's so many other trends and stats you could pull that also support why those teams are 7-0 outside of rust versus rest. And a lot of occasions, a lot of instances, they probably just have the better players.
Yeah, right. Like usually,
49ers 2023 is a part of this because they had the rest advantage. No NFC team was going to beat them. The AFC team wasn't even supposed to beat them. So there's a lot more, I think, that goes into that.
Yeah, I think so too. And, for people calling out momentum, I do think, momentum does go a long way. But again, there are numbers to support the the rust versus rest.
Sure, it's real.
Yeah, definitely. So we'll see what sort of impact, if any, it does have on this particular game. But I do think it could potentially be a decider. Let's look at the 49ers' favorable matchups. I'm going to go with Ricky Pearsall. I mean, the 49ers need Ricky Pearsall in the worst way, especially in this matchup. They didn't have any receiver go over 35 yards in the Week 18 game. They need some firepower. They need someone who could beat man coverage, and that's Ricky Pearsall. Unfortunately, we just haven't seen a whole lot of – like, I had trouble filling this slide because I was like, okay, I got Week 1 stats. He didn't play in Week 18. I was like, what am I going off of here? And it feels like he's missed a lot of this season. But I do know that when he is on the field, like, he is able to contribute, and him and Brock Purdy have good chemistry. The question I have on that, I guess, is like, how much chemistry have they been able to get while Pearsall has been hurt? Like, is he going to be rusty a little bit? Because remember the last time he missed however many games he did. When he returned, it took him a game or two to really get rolling, right? And I don't know if that was because Kyle Shanahan just wasn't featuring him, or it's because it was just that rust thing. Not sure. But the 49ers are going to need to find a way to get him the ball, get him involved early, especially with George Kittle out of the mix now. You need Ricky Pearsall to really get this ball moving.
Yeah, so after the bye week, 96 yards and had a 38-yarder. And then the next game, 85 yards, had a 30-yarder. And most of his catches are first downs. So, like, that is instant production. And I think another reason that they need him on the field in this game is in Week 18, Seattle just had no problem guarding, like, Kendrick Bourne, Sky Moore, just like the other wide receivers. And even Tariq Woolen matches up really well with Juwan Jennings. But now Pearsall, like we saw last week in the 2-minute drill on the field, they have Kendrick Bourne and Malik Turner, two players who were not on the roster on this graphic in Week 1 when Pearsall had 108 yards. So they weren't even available for the 49ers to put in. So you go from playing players you probably don't want to play in a playoff setting against an elite defense to now you can roll with Pearsall, Jennings, and Demarcus Robinson, who apparently they've been sandbagging with all season after last week. But I think Pearsall adds that, not just the big play element, but he's able to give you a capable receiver, and you don't have really any easy outs now that he is on the field. He takes like one of their quote unquote worst players off the field, and that matters a lot. For the season, their EPA per play is like 0.12 better through the air with him. So he makes a big difference. He's a significant factor in what they need to do, what they want to do. And he's one of the guys who can actually win down the field too. And they don't have very many of those. So being able to do that with Robinson and Pearsall makes him even on both sides. So in my mind, he's a big reason why I think the offense is going to have more success, just because he keeps you honest on defense.
Yeah, and to that point of him being more of a downfield threat than whatever other receivers they have, in week 1, he caught 3 of 4 deep targets. That is 20 or more air yards for 95 yards. In between weeks 1 and 3, led the NFL with 264 receiving yards on downfield throws. So that's kind of his thing, So I think that's something they're really going to be able to use in this game.
On both interceptions last week, those routes are to Ricky Pearsall. So on the first one to Sky Moore, Ricky Pearsall comes back to the ball and probably breaks that up. On the second one, they don't have to throw a ball to Jay Tonjes. They can use Ricky Pearsall in that situation. So just being able to either, one, bail your quarterback out because you're a first round, like those are the things you're supposed to do, or two, be the guy who you can actually design routes for and don't have to rely on this game. So he really raises the ceiling of this offense.
For sure. And I don't want to say I'll call it an emergence. I feel like last week against the Eagles, there was a bit of a emergence for Demarcus Robinson, getting over 100 yards, maybe surprised a lot of people. But do you feel like the 49ers can bring that momentum get that momentum going for Robinson again and feature him as well?
Yeah. So they used him in week 18 in ways that they hadn't, and they kind of carried that over last week where they're just running comebacks, like stuff outside the numbers that they really didn't all season. So having him and being able to do that, just having a player being able to do that, I think they can take advantage of the non-Woolen Witherspoon cornerback. I think it's Josh Jobe is pretty much who they targeted the last time they played. So I think they're gonna have some success in that area where like Brock Purdy's good at finding the matchup. Shanahan's good at designing that. So it's just a matter of can that other receiver win? And he couldn't, honestly, in week 18 because of who we're talking about. So this is another area where Pearsall comes into play. So I'll take the matchup of Robinson against Jobe all day. And I think the 49ers will as well.
Awesome. Yeah, we'll see what tricks up his sleeve Kyle Shanahan has for this one, what adjustments he'll have. But just on one last favorable here, I did call this one out in week 18, and I do still think it's relevant, even though the 49ers didn't actually – I was right. I mean, they didn't actually recover the fumble, but Sam Darnold did fumble in this game. So it just goes on to this point that he is prone to coughing up the football, and the 49ers have to take advantage of that. I mean, that very well could change the outcome of this game. So, yeah, in the regular season, they finished 31st in giveaways per game. Sam Darnold's turned the ball over on 7.2% of his pressured dropbacks this season. That's highest among quarterbacks. 6 interceptions, 5 fumbles lost. In week 1, there were 3 fumbles. In week 18, he had the fumble, but the Seahawks did recover that one. So just they really have to pay close attention to that football against Sam Darnold and the Seahawks team. So the opportunities will be there. The question is, are they going to take advantage of them?
In week 18, D. Winters had a free run at Darnold on 3rd and 4, and he just whiffed, and Darnold scrambled for a first down. If you simulate that 7 other times, it's a sack fumble, because that's what happens when you get a hand on Darnold. He loses the ball, as you can see on the screen. He does that a lot. So they had their opportunities on the handoff that you were talking about. The ball bounces up and hits YGM in the face mask, and he has both hands on it, can't recover it. There's another one late in the 4th quarter. Renardo Green has an opportunity. Darnold throws the ball right to him, but he only gets 1 foot down, doesn't drag his 2nd feet. So he's going to give them opportunities. He does every team. And I like Darnold. I'm a pro Darnold guy. I think he's very talented, but he has so many derp type moments, man. And it's just inevitable. Like, he's going to give you a chance. It's just like you said, whether they can take advantage. And I think that's where being more aggressive, trying to blitz him more. Saleh blitzed Jalen Hurts last week, and they didn't really generate pressure, but it's more of the illusion of pressure. And that's when these quarterbacks really start to make a mistake. Hurts left some clean pockets last week because he thought there was pressure, just because he saw players blitzing. We will see opportunities again where I think if he blitzes Darnold the same amount of time that he blitzes Hurts last week, was like 30%, which is a lot, especially for this coaching tree. But if he does that, we could see Darnold lead to like tip passes, fadeaway throws, and that's where good news happens for the defense. So I'm fascinated to see how Saleh attacks Darnold. He was comfortable going down, swinging, and being aggressive last week. That tells me he's going to do the same thing this week.
But speaking of confidence, in that Week 18 game, I felt like Sam Darnold was pretty confident. Like I felt like Saleh was trying to pressure Darnold because that's kind of the typical way to, get him frazzled. But I felt like Darnold found answers. He was getting the ball off to his running backs in the open space. Maybe they were dialing up screens in perfect moments. Like, I just felt like they had answers. So, like, if you're Robert Saleh, what, besides, blitzing a little bit more or simulating pressure a little bit more, what other adjustments could you make to make Sam Darnold uncomfortable or more uncomfortable than they did in Week 18? Because he didn't seem all that uncomfortable then.
Yeah, he didn't. And, I mean, the zones were wide open. It was it's easy to make throws when you're not pressured, and they just don't create pressure. We know that by now. But they also made it easy on him. So one time where they did have a play, everybody was covered. Jason Pinnock just left his man and blitzed, and then the running back was wide open. It was Charbonnet, and that's how he got like 12 yards or whatever. So they have to do their job, obviously, in that sense. But I think that's where the man coverage comes into play, and just make him make a throw, make the wide receivers make a catch, and JSN's going to get his numbers. That's inevitable. He's going to have a good game because he has a good game every game. But you still have to make Darnold make like a tight contested throw. So I think more man coverage and probably more blitzing just to see if you can change his eye level, see if he drops his eye level and makes a mistake. So I think those two. So he doesn't necessarily have to blitz. Just keep running little stunts in games along the defensive line. But first and foremost, I think they have to run more man coverage and, again, just make him make a throw. And if you get a free run at the quarterback, tackle him, like make contact with him.
Yeah.
Which didn't happen last
time. The tackling was just so bad in all phases for the 49ers defense that game. I agree with that. I think there are some ways they can change some things up. With Eric Kendricks getting like his first game action in that Week 18 game.
Yeah.
I know you noted these last two games now, he hasn't missed a tackle. So he's like quickly become one of those like leaders in that defense and one of those guys that's been dependable now with a couple weeks under his belt in this 49ers defense. What sort of confidence do you have in him? Like just being potentially a game changer this time around in the divisional round?
He's been their best defensive player, which is a low bar to clear based on who's on the field. But it would be tough for him to play any better, I would say. Like he just does. He's always in the right spot. He just looks like a guy who's played the game for 10 years, which is exactly what's been the case. For him to almost get an interception on that fourth down, I think was pretty telling, which makes me think if there is a guy who can create a turnover against Darnold, it's a guy like Eric Kendricks who just has a good feel for what to do in coverage. And there was a couple of instances last time in Week 18, even on the very first drive, Saleh has the perfect call on 3rd and 4, and Tatum Bethune just overran the route. Eric Kendricks does not do that. So I think that's where you're going to see a lot of the areas where Kendricks is just going to – they're just going to be cleaner. And that's where you're going to see the missed tackles drop, linebackers not overrunning plays, linebackers getting the defensive lineman in the right spot. So a lot of different veteran stuff that he brings to the table, intangible stuff that goes outside the box score. You can really see the difference with him.
One other difference in this game on the defensive side is going to be Marcus Siegel slated to start at safety with Jair Brown out in this one. Now, we've noted that he looked great in in finishing that game last week against the Eagles. Sure seemed to show a lot of growth, in the time that he sat right after Jair Brown came back. And do you feel like that's because I feel like we see this, right? When guys come in on spot duty and they have to finish a game, sometimes they look real good. But when they have to start a game the following week, you start to see the cracks a little bit. Like, do you see that with Siegel? And I'll just say this, that the issue with Siegel was never run defense. Like that open field tackle that he had, awesome. I feel like he would have done that even before he got benched. Like that's just what he always did well this season. I think the issues he'd had in the past was coverage, so do you feel like you saw enough of that in last week's game to really know for sure he's taken a step with that? Or like how much confidence do you have in Marquez Siegel?
Yeah, that's another player who just couldn't have played better. Every opportunity that he got, he took advantage last week. Even in coverage, he made some really nice plays. So they're going to go after him. Please believe. Like they're going to go out of their way to target him. How? It'll be interesting because I know Saleh has a bunch of just different types of coverages. Like when their quarters coverages a lot of times plays out like man. So he'll be exposed a little bit. Like he puts a lot on his safeties. This season, he's been targeted 23 times and he's allowed 20 catches. But in my mind, he's been in position every time. It's just a matter of will he make a play on the ball? And during those first 6, 7, however many games it was, he just wasn't making plays on the ball. So we're going to get another opportunity. Like, will he make plays on the ball against their tight ends? Because that's what it's likely going to come down to. Based on what we saw last week, he put himself in a position to, but that's the variance. I can't say whether he will or not. Based on the first part of the year, he's not. But like, what changed? Did anything change? We're about to find out.
Yeah, we are about to find out. So hopefully he has grown in that area, but at the very least, you do know he should help the run defense because, again, that's like the strong part of his game. So looking forward to seeing him in that area for sure.
His speed will make a difference. I will say that because they looked very slow and Walker is very fast. So when Walker was on the field, like he averaged – it's an outside zone running team. He averaged 5.4 yards per carry against outside zone. And you could tell Walker was able to run away from Jair Brown. He's probably not going to be able to run away from Siegel because Siegel is also a 4-3 guy and he's coming downhill. So I think that is where in the run is where he's really going to make a difference. Being able to come downhill and close ground. He did that a couple times last week where he chased down Saquon Barkley from the other side. So I think that's where Siegel's really going to make an impact.
For sure. All right, we've reached the point of our score prediction. I'm going to let you go first. KP, what you got in this one?
I think the 49ers I think what we're going to see is like a battle of the quarterbacks. And I think the 49ers are going to go up rushing yards. They're going to give up yards to JSN too. It's going to be a higher scoring game than I think people would imagine, just off 13-3, which it was always going to be. It would be tough to be lower scoring. But I think they do get Darnold into some pressure situations. And again, like it could just be the illusion of pressure. And I think that impacts Darnold. I cannot get out of my mind what happened to Darnold in the playoffs last year. I don't know why people are expecting that Darnold's going to flip a switch, just like they're expecting the Eagles to flip a switch. That just doesn't happen in the NFL. There's too large of a sample size. So I think we do see just some of those mistake type of plays, and it keeps the Seattle's offense off schedule just enough, even to where it's a difference between a touchdown and a field goal in the red zone. So I think Seattle ends up scoring 23, and we see a much better version of the 49ers. I think Pearsall I think they just have some success through the air in general. I think we're going to see Shanahan draw up and be able to take advantage of their linebackers down the field, and as opposed to the last time around where Eman Wari was able to live around the line of scrimmage and be in his strength, I think they're going to make him turn and run much like they did with Quinyon Mitchell and Cooper DeJean. So I'm going to say 24-23, and I think the 49ers win, and we get a chance to see Fred Warner play football again.
That would be music to our ears. Over 20. Like I feel like that's bold. I don't think I think it could happen, but definitely not something we've seen between these two teams this year yet. So I'm actually keeping my prediction under 20. I think 49ers win. And of course, I'm going to predict that the 49ers win because I believe I predicted the 49ers would lose last week. And what do? They surprised me. And they have surprised me so many times this year. So again, I'm leaving room for them to surprise me one more time. And I think this team could will itself to win a lot of games as they have this season. They just continue to fight. They continue to make adjustments even when they've missed so many guys. Other guys step up. So with that in mind, I'm going to say it's a very close game. 49ers 17, Seattle 16. I can see it coming down to the very last play again. All right, we got a couple of predictions in the chat. 17-13 Niners, 29-19. We got a couple of Seahawks fans or just at least, 49er haters in the chat. Shout out you guys as well. Make sure you like this video at least. Like if you're going to be here, like might as well. Thank you, Mike, for the super sticker. And it sounds like there's going to be a lot of 49er fans in Seattle for this game. So hope you all have fun out there. It's always a great time in Seattle, at the Clink. So have fun out there and be safe. Definitely won't be like Philly. But with that, guys, we'll leave you be. Enjoy the rest of your Friday. Make sure you guys like this video. Make sure you subscribe to the channel if you haven't yet. Hit that notification bell so you know when I go live. I'll be doing a post-game show Saturday after the game, so make sure you guys tune into that. Audio listeners, leave a rating, leave a review. But for now, folks, have a good rest of your Friday, and peace.